Okay, this is a video for the unique Melody MEST. That is the Japanese version closest to you, and the one in the back is the international version. I rec both of them. They're very, very similar. I OCD'd on symbols. I time-stamped them. I'll get to that. It's very hard to tell the difference. They're both exceptional. I'm getting a custom version for myself because I'm so impressed. It'll be the first CIEM I've ever gotten. I do mixed martial arts, and sometimes my ear, the outer part of my ear, gets changed, but I'll try not to get kicked in the head too much and enjoy it for as long as I can, because these are my favorites. That's the Sony IR Z1R right there. They're still awesome. Everybody that has them knows they're awesome. A little bit large. Mids are, they're not, they could be a little thin if we're going to be nitpicking besides the fit. This doesn't suffer from anything across the spectrum. It's got a unique playback, unique melody, no pun intended, really. It's hard to explain. Dynamics, I don't know how to put this to people. Is it the bone conduction driver that's doing that? I don't want to assign greatness to something that I don't fully understand, so I won't try to. Do I recommend this set? I recommend it highly. It's probably the best value you can get for your money because it's about the best IEM that I've ever heard. So at the price of, let's say, $1,500 plus or minus a couple hundred, if you get the international version, if you go custom, you're getting, by my estimation, using the music that I listen to that you see through all the videos, the best audio playback that you can get in this hobby. That this came out 6 months ago blows my mind and makes me feel good, because there's always that, is this like a hype train? 5 people are doing videos. That's past. If there was a train for this, I missed it. I wasn't around for that. I got this because another set wasn't available, and I thought, I'll get that. It'll be good for the channel, as I explained in a previous video, and my mind was blown. I'm more impressed now than when I did that first video saying how mind blown I was. On everything. It makes everything else that I have in my possession sound a tier below. This is really, I assume a lot of companies are going to start to get into this or try to play with it, because what it's giving you is, there's nothing like it out there. It's amazing. And a lot of people that have gotten this set, just by my casual observations, are moving to custom. Why not? If this is this good, and if there's any benefit to custom, then get that little extra percent, because that's another percent over everything else. So this is the introduction. Let me go ahead and start with some music. Okay, let's start with the bass. We're looking at Metallica, the 598 EP, Garage Days Revisited, and the track is called Crash Course in Brain Surgery. It opens with it's a bass. Before this track starts, Garage Days Revisit, this is supposed to be like, a bunch of a garage band, pretty much, is what they were. They were getting back to the roots, and they were also mocking the industry, which is ironic because it's Metallica that attacked Napster later. But you can almost hear the energy from the guitar amp or the bass amp just before the track starts. You can hear a little bit of talking. I've noticed that since I've been listening to this track back in all the way to car audio days, when I would play this sometimes on my big bass system and just change the amp and the crossovers and stuff, because I like this music as well as hip-hop. And I always knew it was there, but listening to it on the unique Melody MEST sounds like being in the room with them. There is a clarity, there's a dynamism. Is that a word? Like, dynamics, being able to perceive everything up and everything down with no MP3 files are famous because the way that they compressed them was to lop the top and the bottom off, because they thought people can't hear there. When we got to non-lossy formats, we realized that we can actually hear that. Can you tell the difference between a good FLAC and a DSD? Maybe no. Can you tell the difference between an MP3 and a FLAC? I can, and a lot of other people can. It's got a lot to do with the compression style. This unique Melody MEST has it sounds like everything is there and not in a rough or harsh way. I'm in the bass section, so this opens with bass. It sounds absolutely fucking fantastic. Marvin Gaye Sexual Healing, the Roland 808, sound epic. Again and again, everything that I'm listening to, the Violent Femmes, a 4-string bass guitar that is slackened slightly, whereas this sounds perfectly. EADG, Eat a Dead Grasshopper. The Violent Femmes sounds slightly loosened. sounds fucking brilliant. The decay, the realism of the playback in the bass, with a bass guitar, with deck mixed with a Roland 808 on Sexual Healing, which, by the way, sounds fucking epic. Eurythmics synthesizers sound fucking spectacular. Again, that gives me the feeling that there's something going on that I'm not familiar with earphones. Thus, I'm getting customs. I'm getting customs, man. I live in Japan. I got to go to audiologist, get a 3D of my inner ear, and I got to send it off and get it. I got to have this in custom. It sounds excellent the way it is, but if I can get anything even better, I want to be that much more ahead of the game. Led Zeppelin Dazed Confused 4-string bass guitar, where he's front and center, sounds the way it's supposed to be positionally. Nothing sounds kind of off balance or pushed forward too much. When the levee breaks, the authoritative kick drum sounds like it's supposed to. It is front and center in the mix. It's not like that on something like Fool in the Rain, where he's doing the Purdy Shuffle and he's actually he's probably a little bit behind Jimmy Page on the deck and how he sounds positionally, especially when Jimmy Page engages in the distortion pedal. The res of this set is fucking fantastic. The bass line on this, what is my ultimate bass line? Me coming from car audio bass head, me also loving rock and roll. I put this stuff up on the wall so you guys can get, yeah, he does love Led Zeppelin, he does love Bob Marley, he's a big Van Halen fan, he loves him some Pink Floyd, Jimi Hendrix is in the house, Tupac as well. If I had more room, I'd put up more stuff. That blue line, I'll not say the pink one, because before I got the international version, I had already deeply fallen in love with this set. So I'll just say that the blue, this tail is 3 dB off. That would not be coming in horizontal, but almost it would. This should be 3 dB, and this would be also. So this would almost be flat. This would have a slight, tiny little, we're talking, that's like 0 right there, so don't worry about that. There's no roll off whatsoever on either one of these sets. The bass is as good as I've heard it played back for 4-string bass guitars, for the synthesizer in the Eurythmics, for the kick drum. Every time low frequency stuff is being played, everything else after it, let me get specific. Black Sabbath Sweet Leaf 2-minute 30-second and beyond. Please take a listen if you can. If there's a lot of distortion going on with Black Sabbath, and the only stuff that can really nail it down seems to be planar. The P1, amazingly, and also something like the ARE, which is hi-fi man headphones. This set, the Unique Melody, plays Black Sabbath Sweet Leaf from 2-minute 30-second. If you have this set, go ahead and listen to this. Hopefully you have a decent version of this. Is very much like the planar in its res, in its ability to not sound soft or slow. It sounds accurate. It doesn't sound steroidal in the high. So I'm moving out of the bass, so I'll get out. The Black Sabbath Sweet Leaf is 2-minute 30-second. I'm too fucking excited. And there's a bassist and a drummer, and they kind of do a solo together, and that gets very complicated because it's already a kind of a hazy, distortion-laden track. This is best played on the P1 and on the ARE. As far as not those two items, I don't use a lot of other. The LCD i4 would do that too if you had an iOS, the correction cable. This would be on par with that. Blows my mind. Again, the bone conduction, is that doing anything? I don't know, but we take that out of the equation and then we have a tribrid, this stomps on all of the tribrids I've listened to. There's got to be something more going on than simply the tribrid. There's got to be that fourth driver actually doing something. That's Occam's razor. The shortest explanation is they are doing what the company made them said they will do. Got no reason to doubt them, and I got a lot of reason to believe them based on my library. That's the bass. It's fucking fantastic. If you like bass, if you're a artist or monitor or producer, this is something this gives you all of the detail without the fatigue or the rough or I'll get to that in the Treble. This is really fucking exceptional. Very, very, very good. And that's the bass. It's peerless, and I'm out for the bass. Mids are next. Okay, the mids. For a second, let's take a look at my library, if you're not familiar with it. It's all vocal laden. There's no OSTs, there's not really any EDM or anything else. There's a vocalist or multiple vocalists everywhere. Fleetwood Mac, there's 4 pretty much. You got 2 males, 2 females. That's why I use Gold Dust Woman, Go Your Own Way, and a lot of stuff off of this album because I'm getting male and female, and it's actually recorded quite well. This is actually a DSD. Do you need that? No, but it doesn't hurt. Everything I've got in my library has vocals. When the bass is elevated too much, there's 2 females right there. It's going to change the way that the vocals sound. It might not be offensive to you, but it's going to be different than it's supposed to be if that low end is elevated too much, or the mids are pushed forward too much. It's going to make the vocals sound unnatural. That's very sensitive region for earphones, is the mid-range. Headphones as well, I assume, because of the vocals, if you listen to vocal music. I don't know anything about symphonies and how much damage or presence or what that's going to give you by boosting up the mid frequencies, but for music that is vocal based, you're going to do well to have something that's not pushing up and scooping down before it starts to take its gain up into the from the late mids into the early treble. You don't want to mess around with that too much. The MEST is like the bass, perfect. We got 2 out of the 3 main frequencies, and everything that I listen to, Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing, I'm listening to Mark's vocals and also the guitar. If the bass is elevated too much, it sounds unnatural. If it's not elevated enough, it sounds anemic and thin, like everything does that doesn't have the energy. Bassists and drummers are in music for a reason. They're the backbone of it. They're pinning down the beat, the rhythm. It's important to have them represented with balance, not too much, but they've got to be there. With this set, they're always there and never in a intrusive kind of way. Fleetwood Mac, Doobie Brothers taking it to the street, vocalist, a bassist, a vocalist, a bassist, and then they overlap one another, and then you're going to get a degradation of the quality of the vocals. And on this set, more than any that I've recalled, I'd have to go back and listen to some other stuff, but there doesn't seem to be any penalty over the vocals. Even though they're laying 2 different things on top of each other, I can perceive it as good as I ever have, which makes me focus on stuff like On the Run, which is an OCD kind of res check from 26 seconds to 58 seconds. There's a woman announcing. They did a lot of stuff with the Dark Side of the Moon album. I'm a big fan of it. That's why I've got it up on my wall right there. And that's actually a Dark Side of the Moon tour poster, 1972, Carnegie Hall. The 26 to 58 is a woman announcing boarding of a plane to Rome and to get your passports ready, and it's hard to catch all of it, and they also, a new audio sequence is overlapped on that before it's completed, and it's difficult. It's like a challenge to hear how far you can get with her before your brain gets overwhelmed by the sense of rockets and stuff going behind you from, believe your right to your left. And this is about as good as I've heard it. All of the little micro cues, like the Michael Jackson beep on Wanna Be Starting Something, left channel, minute 27 seconds to a minute 31. It's very subtle. It's a double beep. I could catch it. The Blister, Finger Snaps, Blister in the Sun by the Violent Femmes. When I'm strutting, they're snapping their fingers. All of that stuff is better on this than I've ever heard it. This week has been filled with me confused and excited. Excited that I've got this, and kind of confused that it hasn't been captured. I guess it's happening now, but I don't know how this got. Some people said, there's a little bump at 6K, and I'm not hearing that at all. I'm hearing what that would be, the benefit of that, giving presence certain energy, but the penalty that you get from that, which is fatigue and people getting put off by it, I don't get that at all with this set. So I don't know if people looked at a graph and came to that conclusion, because I can't think of the music, nothing that I've listened to that I think, okay, I can feel that, I can hear that. Nothing. It's maybe that conduction drive, that bone conduction drive is smoothing or doing something, because that little peak at 6 is having no penalty whatsoever. I wouldn't know it was there if I didn't look at a graph. I don't know. Meatloaf, Paradise by the Dashboard Light. It's like an opera, kind of a Broadway thing. They're talk singing, they're screaming, they're yelling. It's a back and forth. They're sharing the same mic. They've got different mics. The quality of it is fantastic. The vocals, through everything that I've listened to, I'm looking at Jerry Garcia right now. I'm also looking at Hart. Everything I listened to this week, I did a lot of listening this past few days because of is this really better than the Sony IR Z1R? Yeah, actually, and it's It's not really, really close. Like this just gets it by something. This does bass better than I think the Sony does, which I thought does that better than anything. I think this does it better. I think the mids are definitely better on the MEST than on the Sony. The Sony's special sauce is the dynamic driver taking care of the treble. I think that this treble has got something going on that's absolutely special, and it's better than the Sony. So in every frequency, in every part of the spectrum, the bass, the mids, and the treble, I would pick the MEST over the Sony IR-Z1R. I'm not selling those. I don't think so, because I'm a Sony fanboy, but it's not like this is really close. I think this is a different level than that. It's a new level. And that Jim Croce, not Croce, Jim Croce, guy sitting on a stool playing acoustic vocals. Sometimes you can hear his mouth hitting the mic. It's very simple. It's very, very simple and easy to focus on. And his guitar and his vocals can sound a little bit forward. If that gain, that rise from 1K is a little bit too much. On the Odin, I got a little bit too much from Jim Croce. Didn't think at the time, but when I started A and B it, I thought, okay, that would be a little too much over a period of time. On this, the gain is around 7 dB, I believe, and it's on top of not being too elevated, it just sounds different. It sounds natural. It sounds like being in the studio with the artist. It is unique. I hate to keep saying that because the name of the company is Unique Melody, but these are different in a good way. Like they're doing something that I haven't heard before. It blows my mind. And that's the mids. I'm just fanboying this shit now. I mean, I can try to pick out stuff, and I'll get a little more when we do the treble. So that's the mids right there. Okay, the treble. The treble is where there would be a difference between these two sets, and one part is about around 3K, and the other is this the Japanese edition has the energy goes out longer. Maybe this would make cymbals sound slightly different, maybe a little too much energy, too much life. Remember, cymbals, I talk about them all the time. They've got a birth and a death. Because they stand out and above a lot of other instruments on music that's being played back, especially if you listen to rock and roll, it's easy to focus on the birth and the death, whereas the guitar might be harder because the solo seems to be coming in and out with the vocalist. The cymbal strike from a drummer, especially a significant one, seems to cherry on the top of a lot of moments in a lot of songs, so it's easy to focus and time stamp them. The energy that exists here and is slightly less on the international version is what I was looking for. And I used 3 tracks. One was No More, No More by Aerosmith, and the timestamp on that is 7 seconds and 13 seconds. You can check this if you'd like. They sounded perfect on both of them. There didn't seem to be any notable difference in the cymbal birth and death. And you're thinking, you're supposed to be talking about treble. This is critical, man. This is where you can pick out there's not enough energy in the treble because what you know to be a cymbal and how it's supposed to sound sounds softer, sounds quieter, sounds different, and you know it right away. Or it sounds significant and you know it's not supposed to be that much, and you know fatigue is coming because that's just a symbol of everything up there, and every time that's struck, that's going to be notable. Like turn down the volume. On No More, No More by Aerosmith from the Toys in the Attic, it's 7 seconds and 13 seconds. Both of these MEST played it perfectly. And that's one of the reasons I'm getting a custom set, because that's so important to me. It's a symbol of overall quality. Like a lot of sets that are garbage just fuck that up totally. And a lot of other sets that are good, the U12T, which is, I really believe that that's a set that probably is great for people that are monitoring in the studio and don't need anything overemphasized, but also a little loss of musicality. They're not there for the joy, they're there for the accuracy. I can see where something like that has its great fan base, but I'm a music lover myself, but I want it played naturally, and I don't want anything getting over on something else or decreasing the quality of another thing because it's tuned in such a way. This doesn't do that at all. Another track, Hey Hey What Can I Do? And I didn't notice this, and this is just timing and drumming. Hey Hey What Can I Do? The first 2 significant strikes are exactly the same as No More, No More, 7 seconds and 13 seconds. And they sound perfect. And this track, Hey Hey What Can I Do, has lots of cymbal strikes and lots of this is one of the better early Led Zeppelin, the remasters are great, but they weren't some of the older stuff was not that great. This is a great copy, and this is done really well. This is a remaster. They sound fantastic on both of these sets. At this point, I'm trying to determine if the JP version is maybe a little too... This doesn't have... Talk to other people that got this and ask them, this is my opinion. This doesn't give you the heat, and it doesn't give you the brightness that is associated with detail. But it's all there. That is the thing that's different. And then you take that frequency and then you go everything prior to that in the mids and the bass, and it's the same thing. You're getting everything clear, but it's not because it's not rough, it's not biting, it's not sharp, it's not standing out in some odd tuning, and that's why you're noticing its presence and impressed with it, where later on it might seem a little unnatural with other recordings. This is the cymbal replay on this, both of these sets, is just a final reflection on everything that happens prior to it. And listening to both of these, because this is where I'm really trying to find the difference between the two. No More, No More, 7 and 13. I just need to hear the first two. I can keep going. So, hey, what can I do? Again, 7 and 13. Fucking perfect. Now I'm going to Cashmere. These are beautiful strike. This is some people's favorite fucking song. I love this song. 35 seconds. A minute and 2, a minute and 11, a minute and 38. Those are significant, fantastic cymbal smashes, crashes by John Bonham that sound absolutely fucking euphoric. They're perfect. They're perfect. I did my final listening today, and I did my final... don't cop out, find the difference, where is it? And I couldn't find it, and I thought, according to the graph, the place it's got to be the life and death of a cymbal where that's going to show its difference. And it doesn't. It's fucking fascinating. I remember when I was first listening to beryllium, and I said, I predict a bunch of companies are going to start using beryllium just because its technical prowess is its ability to have elevated bass a little more than a regular driver and still have quality mids. I predict that other companies, if they can, are going to try to mimic what Unique Melody is doing now, because this is different. This is fucking special. Everything I listen to. ELO telephone line. ELO has a lot of stuff going on a lot of energy going on in the treble and the upper treble, about as far as you can hear mixed in. There's no fatigue there. There is all of the detail with none of the associated bad side of that, which is that's great with detail, but I can't listen a long time. That's why some people prefer a dark set, which implies that bass is elevated and the treble kind of slopes down, because that's something you can listen to on your sofa for a long period of time. You can do that with the UM, but it's not dark tuned. But there's no fatigue. It's someone's gonna get it. My 2 cents in this is dynamics. The upper range. Let's get crazy for a second. Look at this monitor, 55-inch monitor. See the top bar, the top edge of this monitor. Imagine that is the top of the graph, or the measurement that you can see how far, if you're doing like checking the music. And then the bottom, where that skirt is the bottom. Other IEMs, this is going to sound really weird, other IEMs relative to the MEST sound like they're getting, like if something clips, if you ever have car audio clips, it's because the speaker, there's not enough power to get the speaker to extend to that point. It's beyond its spec, and so there, instead of having a peak, it would be like a flat top. This set sounds like everything that is at the extreme upper and the extreme lower range is perfectly crystal clear, and other sets compared to it sound like they might be getting stuck up a little bit, like the IER Z1R. So forget about all the other sets. The IER Z1R, my number one. Other people rank it very highly. Most people think it. There's no QC issues. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fucking fantastic. I think the mids are slightly thin. I'm not the first person to say that. Fit is not a problem for me. I rotate them slightly forward. The hooks do not hang on my ear. They point slightly forward. That's a deal breaker for some people. This set is on another level from the IER Z1R. And the best way to explain it is to imagine you're looking at a graph of the music. This captures everything without fatigue, and other stuff relative and compared to it sounds like it might be getting a little bit lopped off at the bottom, like there's something missing. And the very first track that I was listening to when I started this video, Crash Course in Brain Surgery by Metallica, the way that it sounds like I'm present and I can hear the amp energy before this starts playing, and the other tracks on this album same, is unique. Doesn't sound quite as good on everything else. Not just that set, everything. I don't know what to say. I guess there's other people out there that are very impressed and they're getting custom versions. And I'm doing the same thing. It seems like the natural thing to do when you get something this good. And that's the treble, and I'll go ahead and I'll do conclusions in this. What do you think I'm gonna say? I just did a video where I talked about Chi-Fi is great, but if you invest too much, you start to, I guess the variety is the point, because you want to try lots of stuff and maybe discover exactly what it is that you're looking for. I will give you caution and tell you that before I listened to the MEST, I didn't think that that was the line that was best for me. Like, I would have looked at that, and I did, and thought, yeah, this is maybe going to sound good, but 4K's got a little divot, and I just bias. And now I look at that graph and think that can't be applied to everything because it's different drivers, but it's the best earphones I've ever heard in my life. So I would recommend that if you can afford it, buy it. And if you got to save money and then buy it. Which one? The JP version fits me better, but when I use different tips on the international version, I basically got the same thing. I'm getting the customs because if the thing that is special is this bone conduction driver, which I think it's got to be, because why is this so much better than all the other tribrids? If there's other people out there, chime in. Why? It's clearly better. Why? If we take out the bone conduction driver, then it is essentially a tribrid. Why the fuck is this so exceptional? It's got to be Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is that the companies claim that that driver does something and they think they know what that is actually correct. And we as reviewers and people that are getting it are having difficulty putting it into words and explaining what that actually is doing, how that actually is impressive. And my contribution to that conversation is that it sounds like the dynamics are completely present, and in a way that I didn't notice because I thought that was already the case with other sets. But when I listen to this, it sounds like every fucking thing is in there. Everything. And I'd not ever heard that before. So I would recommend that you purchase this, and if you can't, save and then purchase it. It's that fucking good. The hype is not sales related, like the company and all this stuff. That was 6 months ago. There's been this low thing going on where people are getting it, liking it, getting rid of it, not because, and then they're getting a custom version of it, and they're not out yelling about it, but you start to say the same story and you realize that there's other people out there going on the same path that you're on, and they're already ahead of you. They've already done their impressions. They've already sent it. They're on their way there. And then there's going to be people getting in line behind me that are going to do the same thing, either right away, or they're going to buy one of these and then they're going to say, fuck, I'll go custom with that. And then align why. There's something different about this set. Absolutely fantastic. Unique melody, bravo. What a fucking job. My library, the low frequency events, the drums, the bass guitars, the synthesizers sound fantastic. The vocalists, male and female, and rock and roll and hip hop and everything that I listen to sounds exceptional. The life and the death of cymbal strikes, that's the place where I could give a little bit of, because all of the other shit is so good, I could give a little. I'm sorry, did I say the stage is fucking massive? On both of these, it's fucking huge. If the cymbals were just good, like I could sense something's not perfect, but I would still be enthusiastically a fan of these because the bass is perfect, the fucking mids are perfect. No. 7, 13, 7, 13, 35, minute 2, minute 11, minute 38, Cashmere. Perfect. If you got OCD, you'll fucking love these and you'll never let them go. Take really good care of them. If you don't have OCD, you might develop a case of it because you start hearing shit you never heard before and think, let me go back and hear that again? Wait a second, I didn't hear that with my other set. Go get the other set. Listen, like, that's actually not there. Or I got to turn the volume up. Oh, there it is. Like, it's always there. It just, the dynamics, I don't know. This was originally running off of an Xperia 1 2. The first moment I fell in love with the Unique Melody was off of a fucking phone. So the people that come in and say, you need a really high quality source, you need a shit ton of power. Yeah. No, you don't. Nope. If you got a phone, you'll be fine. I would recommend that you upgrade to, come on, a phone. But my first love was with that. And this is maybe one of the long videos I've done in a long time, and it could be longer, but I'll let you go if you fucking made it this far. Fucking golf clap. Type red in your comments just to let me know that you got this far. R-E-D in capitals. Red. Thank you very much for your time. Fucking exceptional. It's a joy to do this. I just did a video talking about, investing and people are addicted to the hobby, and I just did another one talking about audiophile. Those are not negative topics. Those are just having real conversations and getting feedback from the community who gets to share their thoughts. There's really no right or wrong. There's just how you see stuff. I have a channel. I give opinions. I make titles. It's my opinion. Using the music in my library that most of you should be familiar with, because I put it on paper, I list it. There's nothing on this level. And I'm out. Way too late. Good shit. And I'm out.